unfiltered discussions, unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hello and welcome and happy Monday, and I hope you had a happy Pi Day on Saturday, March the 14th, 3.14, although I much prefer E-Day on February 71st. Get it? Because E's another number like pi, and it's 2.71, but February 71st isn't a real day. If you have to explain it, it wasn't funny. You'll learn a lot of things on tonight's show. Here are some of the topics we'll cover. Ever wonder why we do the jobs we do? Why some people become therapists and other people become, well, corporate villains? It might be your personality and not the good parts of it. Halfway through the hour, we'll explore the psychology of the so-called dark personality traits and based on them, why you might choose one career over another. Then after that, seasonal affective disorder, SAD. It's something a lot of people talk about as we enter dark months, but for those who suffer from it, lighter months have their turbulence as well. Things like manic episodes. We'll talk all things sad as we get more light. Okay, that's some of tonight's show. There will be more, but for now, let's dive in with the Oscars.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
The yearly fashion show hosted by Oscar de la Renta was last night, I think. No, it was the Oscars, the Academy Awards, and we're here to dive in with Caitlin Green, a media personality and co-host of the Jan Arden podcast. Caitlin, it's your special night. It happened. It's done. It's like Christmas is over for you.
This is Boxing Day, I suppose. This is my Super Bowl. I think for anyone who's obsessed with pop culture and just loves movies, I love everything to do with movies, this is a really, really big night. I know it's long. I know for many people it's boring, but you will pry it out of my cold, dead hands.
At 9 p.m. last night, someone I know well, who I was going to be talking about the Oscars with, sent me a text saying, "Are you watching it right now?" Which made me get my act together and tune in for the last hour and a half. That person was you.
Yep.
So I saw the big categories. Mm-hmm. But going in, like, what was it like on the red carpet? I didn't actually see. Was there any wild moments on the red carpet?
No, the carpets were good. I really enjoy the fact that the carpets are being handled by a lot of, and this is a thing that's become like an issue online, but some influencers, let's say, so you've got Amelia de Moldenberg from like Chicken Shop Date. She'll frequently be out there now doing red carpets. You've got various like sort of entertainment influencers doing it for like Threads. One of the reality stars from Summer House, Sierra Miller, was doing it for The Cut. And so I think that they've really mixed it up. There's entertainment reporters, yes, that are doing a lot of the broadcast legacy media stuff, but I think the carpets have become more interesting as they've sort of branched out in terms of who they're inviting to do the interviews. And I think, again, I'm a huge fan, as we've discussed on this show extensively, of heated rivalry. I think Hudson Williams is such a treat to see anywhere he goes because he does not have media training at all. He just goes there and says whatever he wants. And he did a really good interview with Amelia de Moldenberg of Chicken Shop Date. Great YouTube series if you haven't checked it out. And the two of them got on like a house on fire. I think that was like my carpet highlight for sure.
Cool. All right. So going in, the first, 5-10 awards are like, best original foreign. They don't get to the big stuff like best picture, best director towards the very end. Sinners cleaned up a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think it was like pointed areas. It was like, best actor, so best original song. It didn't win like best picture, best director though.
No, so it did win. So I think that Ryan Coogler won for original screenplay, which is like, kind of a big deal. So that's why he had his moment to get on stage, which I was really happy to see for him. It did win 6 awards. So it was kind of like, one of the big winners of the night. One battle. Oh, no, sorry. I shouldn't say that. Sinners won 4. One Battle After Another won 6. So again, those are the 2 top line ones. And that's really what everyone expected going in, that the night was going to be about the 2 of them kind of duking it out. Now, the real big moment for me came when Best Cinematography was handed out, and this award went to a woman for the first time ever.
How did we make it to 2026 without a woman winning this award? But here we are.
Seriously. And Conan even commented on it. Like after the award was given out, the cinematographer who won, again for Sinners, Autumn Durold Arkapaw, he was like, how is this the first time? And it's because I think the camera and sort of like the tech side of movie production has been predominantly male for so long. I mean, there really aren't even that many female directors. You've just started seeing them become bigger and bigger in years past. And I felt really impressed to see her take the stage because even I think most people loved Sinners. It's incredibly well received, but it's visually very stunning. And she had all the women in the audience stand up during her acceptance speech. So that was a very cool moment. And I'm happy to see Sinners won for that.
I thought Sinners was very good in like pointed ways, like the script, like the filming, like Michael B. Jordan's acting. But on the whole, I just thought it was like a fun, good movie. To me, it wasn't great. Many people disagree with me. I thought it was a good film. One battle after another, I think probably should have won. I didn't love it like you did, but I see it. And there's something about the dude meets like heist that Leonardo DiCaprio was like wearing a robe while doing like, I don't know, heist stuff. To me, it was so funny.
Yeah.
Like a bathrobe. People dressed up as him for Halloween. You know that.
Oh, it's him and Sensei. I saw costumes for both, and I thought that they were perfect. And I think that's what, Paul Thomas Anderson nominated 13 times. He's the director of so many of my favorite films and the director for One Battle After Another. So seeing him finally kind of get his accolades, especially for this movie, made sense. Behind the scenes, this was a really expensive movie to make. It's a gamble for a lot of studios, which just aren't spending money like this on original ideas anymore. So it was a very good sign for the movie industry that the two big winners last night were kind of these expensive roll of the dice that studios did on Sinners and on One Battle After Another.
It bodes well for the future of film for now, for the next 15 minutes.
We should say that for now. I'm just happy that it wasn't like a sequel. So it was great. Sean Penn won for Best Supporting in One Battle After Another, and he did not attend the awards last night. Kieran Culkin went to give him the award and then said he's not here, I guess, either because he can't be or he doesn't want to. And I posted about it, and I had a few people DM me saying that he's actually in Ukraine with Zelensky.
Oh, wow.
So that's why he couldn't be there. So, it's kind of, I guess that's a good reason.
Yeah, I guess too. Speaking of like not attending, now I'm not saying Sean Penn did this, but for like political reasons, or you didn't get any outrageous moments, like a viral moment of a celebrity going completely off the rails and saying something wild and making the front page and kind of dominating the whole ceremony. Is this because nobody gave Timothée Chalamet a microphone?
Yeah, I think he would have made it roundly about himself, if I had to guess. I don't know that he would have gone full political. But he did catch a lot of strays in the audience for his comments previously on ballet and opera. So I kind of like that. There's a little bit of a public humbling moment for Timothy. And he's a talented actor. He doesn't need our pity. He's going to have a great long career in Hollywood. But he has just been too publicly saying, I want to be the greatest actor of all time. And I'm going to be at every award show as of late. And I just was happy to see this go to Michael B. Jordan. He played 2 roles, for crying out loud, and he went to the show with his mom. That was another theme of last night. Moms was a major theme last night. He shouts out his mom. Jessie Buckley won for Best Actress for her role in Hamnet, like the saddest mom role you could ever play about losing a child. And so her acceptance speech was probably the top acceptance speech for me. She, again, shouts out mothers in general. She talks about the experience of being the mom to an 8-month-old child. So I think that was really powerful. She's so emotional. I love her.
And she was great. She's got the like Irish gift of the gab that's so uniquely Irish that just oozes out of her. And I love to see people like that. I mean, she was great. She was fantastic. She was kind of funny and kind of oscillating between silly and deeply serious. It was a great acceptance speech. For K-pop Demon Hunters, they like cut them off. Did you notice that?
Yes. And I mean, it was really awkward, but I also want people who are going to be on stage to understand the fact that you have a limited run of time on stage and you will get played off. Like they were standing on stage having the lights turned off on them because they'd already given one person enough time to say thank you. She's the spokesperson. You all don't get a turn.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how many times we have to see this happen on stage before people will understand. Pick a spokesperson and move on.
Yeah, and they look so shocked when they pass the microphone and it's like, no, you get one person to accept your thing. Yeah.
And like also too, they've chosen obviously her to be the person who accepts all the awards during the award season. But so I've seen her accept this award for K-pop Demon Hunters several times by now. Maybe she could have given the microphone to somebody else if they wanted to do that, but you're not going to get two people at the Oscars. Like they're tight on time.
Speaking of music playing us off, Caitlin Green, media personality and co-host of the Jan Arden podcast, is here. Caitlin, when we come back, we'll continue talking about the Academy Awards from last night. One interesting and kind of heartfelt moment was the in memoriam moment for Rob Reiner. We'll discuss more of that with Caitlin Green, media personality, in just a moment. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
This episode is brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. No matter how you do game day, on the couch, in the crowd, or manning the snack table, Athletic Brewing fits right in. With a full lineup of non-alcoholic beer styles, you can enjoy bold flavors all game long. No hangovers, no buzz, no subbing out for water in the second half. Stock the fridge for tip-off with a variety of non-alcoholic craft styles available at your local grocery store or online at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, fit for all times.
Turning headline news into punchline gold. 5 nights a week. The Last Show with David Cooper.
We are here discussing the Oscars, the Academy Awards, with media personality and co-host on the Jan Arden podcast, Caitlin Green. We were all shocked to see Rob Reiner pass some time ago. It happened after he attended a party at Conan O'Brien, the host's house.
Yes.
Just wild. I know Conan wasn't on stage during this moment to remember Rob Reiner. You were mentioning at the commercial to me that Conan said that he found it all too overwhelming or something?
Yeah, so the too long didn't read for anyone who needs a synopsis is that there was a holiday party at Conan O'Brien's house, which I believe happens every year. Conan was close enough with Rob and Michelle Reiner that they're usually in attendance. They attended with their son, who was later accused of murdering them both, and an argument between the three of them broke out at Conan's house, and many believe was, in some way related to what happened after. So very, very challenging, I would imagine, for Conan to be hosting during Rob Reiner's in memoriam segment. I thought Billy Crystal, one of his close friends and obviously like a collaborator in his films, did a fantastic job. He kind of like held the opening to it. And Conan had done previous interviews kind of as he was like doing, like in the lead up to him hosting the Oscars, he was promoting that gig. And he was doing a long form conversation with someone from the New Yorker. And he talked about how he was in shock following the Reiner's deaths for weeks, that he couldn't even believe it was real. And you can hear he's like he's such a professional guy, but I would imagine it would have been pretty hard for him to kind of like navigate that moment for the in memoriam this year.
And the moment itself, walk me through it. I did tune in just afterward.
Yeah, so Billy Crystal came out and he kind of talks like at length about Rob Reiner's fantastic career, about his collaborative work with his wife, Michelle, just what wonderful people they are. And then a lot of the closest friends of the Reiners and, people who've been in their films and worked with them for years, they come out on stage and they all kind of hold hands and there's a standing ovation moment in the audience. So this was the biggest, lengthiest dedication that happened during In Memoriam, but there were special moments set aside for the Reiners, for Diane Keaton, and for Robert Redford. So those three passings were so huge this year in Hollywood. And Catherine O'Hara. I should say that Catherine O'Hara and Diane Keaton's were kind of were kind of both presented by Rachel McAdams. And there was a nice little Canadian shout out by Rachel, of course, because she's from Canada. So is Catherine O'Hara. So I think those were kind of like the highlights, but they did a great job on the Reiners. I felt. I thought that was really special.
Yeah. It's such a horrific, sad thing.
It's awful. It's awful.
All right, back to the awards. Casting.
Oh,
a new award that you've been advocating for. Finally, the Academy listened to you individually and only you, Caitlin. This new, completely brand new award. And I think it makes sense, right? Casting a film is like such an important keystone of the whole thing.
I'm like, this is an art form, everyone. If you cast something well, you should be recognized for it. So this was the inaugural award for Best Achievement in Casting, and one battle after another got it. And that was the best ensemble cast I've just about ever seen. You've got Tiana Taylor, you've got Regina King, you kind of have you have breakout stars as well. And you have like sort of the stalwarts of cinema like Sean Penn and Leonardo DiCaprio all rolled into one project. And I just think they did such a great job. So yeah, Cassandra Kulakundis, I hope I got her name right. She won. And I'm like, yes, I've been championing this for a long time. And I think it should just draw some attention to the fact that for regular like audiences that this is a big deal. If you get casting wrong, the whole movie stinks.
I liked Begonia, which was that weird Emma Stone movie where she's like, and did you watch it? I forget.
Yes. And I liked it. I just was like, I think it was good. I think that if you couldn't nominate up to 10 films for Best Picture, I don't think it would have made the cut.
No. I fully recognize that it was mid. I just really liked it. I talked about this last time you were here. I just like sci-fi and I love Emma Stone.
Yeah.
And I like that she's taking on weirder projects. I mean, she could be like taking on the most basic, like rom-com, whatever, and she'd do a great job with it. But instead, she's leaning into the weird. I was hoping the film would at least get one award, because it was interesting, was it not? I mean, if anything else.
Yeah, it just wasn't the year for it. Like the competition was really, really thick this year. You had fantastic films that a lot of people saw and loved, and they were celebrated as such. So it just sort of wasn't the Yorgos Lanthimos' year. He's had many years with The Favorite and what's the other one where Emma Stone's naked in the whole film? You know this one.
Oh, Poor Things or whatever. No,
Poor Things. Yeah. That's what she won for. And so, so I think this just wasn't going to be his year for this. Jesse Plemons was really good in it. But I think Emma Stone did have one of the big red carpet moments and looks of the night. I think people felt that her hair, her dress, her makeup, people thought that she looked very beautiful. So she might have just sort of like won the red carpet award. Does that count for you?
It is. I mean, but that should be easy for her. Were there any other moments that you wanted to cover before we move on to a popcorn conspiracy?
Okay, well, the popcorn, I can lead us into the popcorn conspiracy directly so there are a few gripes I had. I've gone through a lot of my roses from the night, but a few of my thorns. The production value. I think the production of the show needed a lot of work. The sound was disjointed. You could hear room tone, like lots of like weird things were happening.
Yeah, reverb or echo in the mic, and I was like, they can't pay a professional audio engineer to get rid of that? Come on.
And you could see it was distracting even to Conan. Like there was a delay on a lot of things. And the writing was like, they relied on all these presenter bits that needed a lot of back and forth, which timing wise is very hard to nail for a live show. And it makes things feel disjointed and stalled. So I didn't enjoy the actual like production of the show. So my nerdy production brain was like, yes, okay, let's go YouTube, make this better one day. And then the other thing I didn't love Barbra Streisand. I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this because she's an icon.
She's my one true love, Babs. How she can do no wrong. I mean, what did she do?
She was the one who introduced sort of the big in memoriam special moment for Robert Redford, and then she broke into song for The Way We Were. The audio was muddled for that. I don't think that was her fault, but I felt that she really made the moment about her. I felt like it was a real, like, me and Robert. Robert used to always call me Babs. And if you know me, I'm not really a Babs person. But then when my final sign off to him was Babs, and I was like, I feel like I've heard his name 3 times and yours 500. So I thought that wasn't the best choice for a person to do the dedication. Maybe her and someone else would have been good, but I think she needed to be paired with another person. And then another thorn for me was the constant relentless promo for The Devil Wears Prada 2.
Do they pay for that?
They do.
Okay.
They must. Well, there's got to be a crossover. Like either the studio that is making this is also the broadcasting partner. Like there's something here. Because I was like, why am I being subjected to this much promo for a movie that's going to be very just okay? Like very, very just okay. It was a lot.
And like Anne Hathaway, like pretending to be her character, it was just, it was a bit much. Let's get to the popcorn conspiracy because I feel like Devil Wears Prada 2 leans in here.
Yeah, it does. So this is I find it odd that we're seeing this crazy uptick in expensive branded popcorn buckets done by AMC. So there was a famous one for Dune 2 where the popcorn bucket was the sandworm, but allegedly kind of looked like a butthole. So you had to reach your hand in through the sandworm's mouth. There was one for Megan, the creepy doll. Now there's one for The Devil Wears Prada 2. It's a giant purse. The purse is like your popcorn bucket. And they start at $50 for this popcorn bucket.
$50 for trash, basically.
$50 for trash that's going to wind up floating through the Pacific Ocean in like an AMC branded trash island that exists somewhere. I don't understand what's going on. And then what happens is they sell out, and then the resale market for these branded buckets is like $100 if you can even find one on eBay.
Well, who's buying these things? People are nuts.
Like not in this economy. I don't understand it. It's crazy behavior. And so I was victimized by The Devil Wears Prada twice this week, by this popcorn bucket reveal, and also by it littering through the Oscars last night. I didn't love it.
Well, they should have thought about you before they did that, Caitlin. They listened to you about Best Casting, but they didn't listen to you when it came to Devil Wears Prada 2 promotion. It was a little overboard. Yeah, these events being like sponsored and branded, it's just getting like, it's too much.
Yeah, it's tacky, and it's supposed to be this like prestigious night, and I know that it's not all going to be prestige, but yeah, I just think watching Meryl Streep kind of like sundowning as Miranda again from, Runway magazine in the year 2026 just feels a little bit odd.
And like every camera cutaway, it's like a picture of like a Rolex and stuff. It's just too much.
Oh, the Rolex ads. Yes. Okay. Anyways, I could go on about this forever. I didn't like them either.
But we won't, because the music's going to play us off if we do. Right. Caitlin Green, media personality. Check her out on the Jan Arden podcast. Caitlin, it is always a joy having you on the show. Thanks for talking about the Oscars with me.
Thanks so much, David.
Here's what we'll chat about next. A fascinating new psychology study that asks, does the darker side of our personality steer us towards certain careers and away from others? It's the surprising science that questions whether our inner jerk steers our job interests in a moment.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. We're here because your heightened awareness deserves heightened entertainment. The last show with David Cooper.
When people choose a career, is it about their passion, skills, maybe money, or maybe some advice a guidance counselor gave them? Well, new research suggests something darker might be steering your ship. Your personality's darker side might inform how you choose a job. Let's talk about it with someone who's researched just this. She is a psychologist and researcher at Ulm University in Germany, and her name is Lea de Hesselle. Lea, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks, David, for having me today.
Before we talk about like dark personality traits influencing your job decision in life, what are some of the dark sides of people's personality? Like, how would we categorize that?
So I think personality itself is a term that everyone kind of knows, and it's sort of like how you would describe people. So in general, when we think of personality, I think we think of not necessarily the dark side, but rather the light side. Like someone's very outgoing, very extroverted, or very open to other people. And when we talk about the dark side, we talk about more like manipulating others, disregarding others' interests, exploiting them, cheating on them, these kind of things. And in research, we actually had for the past couple of years something called the dark triad, which are 3 big dark personality traits. And they are psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism, all subclinical. So please don't think of like psychopaths who are in jail because they did some crimes or anything, but rather just general tendencies that honestly every one of us has, at least a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And in my research or my colleagues' research, we don't actually use the dark triad, but more of the dark core of personality.
That sounds like something out of Star Trek. What does that mean, the dark core of personality?
Yeah, so when you look at the dark traits I just described, they all correlate very highly, which means that if you score high on one trait, you also typically score high on another trait. And this led us to the idea that there's some sort of like common core, common underlying construct there that influences all of these traits. And this is what my professor and his colleagues then called the D factor. So just this common underlying disposition that makes people evil.
All right. And so this curiosity that this dark factor or D factor can draw you to a certain type of job. I've heard in like therapy this concept of sublimation. I don't want to get too much in the weeds here, but it's like, okay, the kid who's the bully and very violent maybe grows up and becomes a boxer, or maybe the kid who gets no attention from his parents grows up and becomes a radio host. I'm just talking someone who isn't me. Is it kind of like that? Like these negative traits can then inform the job that you choose as an adult, or is the mechanism a little different here?
So I'm not 100% fully sure of what the mechanism is. And honestly, I don't think anyone is. Just because job choices depend on a lot of things.
Sure.
So of course you have sort of your personality, like if you're outgoing or you're very social or you're not social at all, because you score higher on the dark traits. And then there's also, of course, interests, and they usually correlate or are linked together. And this then sort of with, of course, also what opportunities you have, then decides on your job choice or maybe in what way or direction you orient yourself.
So let's get to the results. If someone is high in this dark factor of personality, what types of jobs might they be drawn to?
So actually what we found is they're not drawn to any particular jobs, but rather we found what they're not drawn to.
Okay.
Which is maybe also interesting.
Yeah.
And there you have social jobs, and that was across all our samples, and we had 6 samples in total. Like the most robust result we found. So we had 3 samples from Germany, 2 from mainly the US, and 1 from Denmark. And we found that these people that score high on the dark traits were not interested in social jobs and also actually didn't work in social jobs.
To me, that sounds like a good thing. When you say social jobs, I'm thinking things like teachers or therapists or nurses. I wouldn't want to be in the hospital with a nurse, needing help from them. And then they've got these dark factors in their personality. Maybe this is a good thing because these roles do require empathy, don't they?
Yes, of course. And it was also something we actually expected to see. Because if you're more concerned about yourself and your own personal gains, you're not gonna want to help other people. So it's not surprising that they don't work in these occupations. And I think it's also not so nice, as you said, to have someone who should help you who is more focused on their own gains.
Now, what about artistic careers? Because you would think people who are high in narcissism and stuff would be drawn to artistic careers. Is that something that you found, or was artistic careers another bucket where there was less people with this dark factor?
It was actually also less people in those jobs, and they also weren't interested in these jobs.
Huh.
And we actually didn't have any expectation on this relationship because just from theory we didn't know what to expect. And what we think could be an explanation for why they're not interested in these jobs and also don't work there is that artistic careers are also often a bit unstable, I would say, or it's unsure if you make it big and make big money and all of that. And
I can tell you it's a struggle.
Yeah, right. And but money and status is something that people high on the dark traits want.
Yeah, I feel like to be a musician or something, you need to love the craft because you're probably not going to be a rock star. You're probably just going to be a working musician with an unstable career. That's the average path for an artist.
Yeah, right. But if you're also very focused on making it big, then it's kind of hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To do this in that career.
Now, were there any other findings about people's kind of negative personality traits that inform their careers that surprised you?
Well, we thought that individuals high on the dark traits would be interested in manager jobs, leadership roles, that kind of stuff. And what was a bit surprising is we actually found that in our German samples, but not in the other samples. So there is sort of a difference between Germany, the US, and also Denmark, because Denmark was where we looked at the actual jobs of people and not just the interest. And we didn't find any relationship there. And at the moment, we don't really know why. Could be something to look at in a future study.
Is there something that high school guidance counselors or career coaches at universities can take away from your study to help figure out what's a good career path for kids or what's a bad career path for a certain young person?
So what I would say is, of course, if you maybe assess personality in general and interests during career guidance, then you could also assess D, of course. But it shouldn't be the only deciding factor. It can just be if someone's maybe interested in social careers, but also scores high on D, then maybe guide them away from it. I don't know, or at least bring it up to talk about. But I don't think you should be just like, okay, that's your personality type, so choose this career over that, because there's a lot of influences that are also at play here.
Of the dark triad of personality traits, narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy, which one's your favorite? Mine's got to be Machiavellianism.
I actually don't have a favorite.
Fair enough.
Because, to be honest, I usually look at just the dark core and not the single traits.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for being on the show, Lea. I appreciate you sharing your research with me. It's been a joy chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Lea de Hesselle is a psychologist and researcher at Ulm University in Germany. If you like what you've been hearing, don't forget to follow The Last Show on social media. We're on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. Our handle is lastshow.pizza. Watch video clips of this show. See me frustrate academics by asking them the stupidest questions I can think of. Follow The Last Show on social media. Coming up next, when the clocks change and the days get longer, most of us breathe a sigh of relief. Enter seasonal affective disorder, or SAD. And for people who suffer from seasonal mood disorders, things aren't always great in the summertime. The bright months bring their own psychological twists as well. Things like mania can happen. But before you buy blackout curtains, we'll unpack all of this with a psychiatrist on the other side of the break.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Exploring both interstellar and interpersonal space-time continuums. The Last Show with David Cooper.
In November every year, around the time change, when we lose an hour of light in the evening, we talk about seasonal affective disorder, about the winter blues. But what I don't hear people talk about often is what happens around March when we get more sunlight and things look on the up. The spring sunshine, how does that affect us, and how does it affect us with some psychiatric disorders? That's what we're going to discuss with psychiatry professor at the University of California, San Diego, Jared Young. Jared, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you.
Thanks very much for having me back, David. It's great to be here.
So people joke about the winter blues. I have the SAD, or seasonal affective disorder. Side note, what a hilariously named disorder, that acronym.
I mean, it's accurate.
Before we get to how things look now for people who suffer from this, how do things look around the winter months when we lose less daylight in the evening because of the time change?
So, I mean, this is one of the, that's one of the fundamental things we all understand and like we're aware of. And when I say all, it just depends on where you are in longitude and latitude. If like I live in San Diego now, it's remarkable how light it is during the winter months. But I remember going to school in Scotland where it's like 60 like on the 60-degree line, very high, very north. We have about 3 hours of daylight in the winter solstice. So I would walk to school in the morning in the dark. And then I'd walk home from school in the afternoon, and it would be dark. So, like, my only time of seeing the sun was the one moment of recess that I would get to run outside. And so, like, that's how I grew up. That was normal to me. And like I say, it's different in San Diego. You get a lot more light. But living at that latitude, like experiencing that very short moment of like, oh, I'm out in the sun. Led me to my interest in how that can actually impact mood. And I have a family history of seasonal affective disorder. And you can begin to see people around you really hating getting into those winter months. And frankly, it's understandable in terms of never seeing the sunlight, having to be indoors, etc., etc. But understanding the mechanism behind it, that's more interesting. And then you brought up obviously the entering into the summer months and we all get happier. That's also incredibly interesting for me.
I kind of hate that I have this seasonal cycle, like that I know that I'm going to be kind of down in the winter, and then I know that things are going to be like amazing in the spring. And it's like, where's this uplifting mood that I want in December, in February? But then boom, it comes like clockwork. How big of a mood dip and then a mood spike do we see for like the average person and then people who suffer from things like bipolar disorder?
Yep, that's really what's key. So you mentioned I'm in the Department of Psychiatry, and I'm here to try and help understand the neural mechanisms underlying disorders. We can develop treatments. And as I said, my growing up in that kind of like in the middle of summer. I mean, it's quite the opposite in the middle of summer. When we were younger, we're like, come back when it gets dark, like 2 or 3 hours of darkness in the middle of summer. So we had a great time, and it was very different. And and people experience that even if don't have a psychiatric condition. People with bipolar disorder, however, are vastly affected by it. And you actually see hospitalization spikes happening in March and April as we enter into summer. And it's a reliable pattern for a lot of people. As you enter into summer and spring, you will see spikes in hospitalization for manic episodes. That's so people with bipolar disorder switch between depressed and manic, where there's a lot of energy. For mania, there's a lot in like wanting to sleep lots and depression during the winter. So summer, lots of manic hospitalizations. Winter, lots of depressed hospitalizations. And it's like clockwork.
I find people use like technical, medical, psychiatric language to describe stuff in their life that may not quite match. I've heard people say, oh, I'm having a manic episode just because they're feeling good that day. I think it's fine, whatever. We don't need to get into, how people talk on TikTok or something. But my question for you, what does a manic episode look like that might require hospitalization? What might that be like?
So that's a great question, and you're right. People use it. People use such language to try and express feelings, but manic episodes can be incredibly destructive for the people undergoing it. So we think about people with mania; they have incredible energy, and that sounds like a great thing, and it certainly can be. But that energy then leads to poor decision making, their racing thoughts, pressured speech. I'm using technical terms here, but people just can't get things out. And their behavior around people becomes disordered as a result of that. And so you're around someone that is, people say, oh, I'm having a bit of a manic episode. And they're like, oh, I just have a bit more energy. Imagine being around someone that is up to 11 on that. And so they can then start to have delusions. And the delusions become incredibly problematic. Many think that they either converse with God or are actually God because of the lack of sleep. The high energy, the reduced level of sleep, they can push them into a state where they're no longer linked to reality. And that's when they become dangerous both to themselves and to others, and especially for family and friends nearby. And it can be really problematic, hence the need for hospitalization. Put them in a stable environment and effectively start bringing them back to normalcy.
I've heard of things like an entry-level employee at a huge Fortune 500 company, like walking into the CEO's office saying they have a great idea and then explaining a nonsensical idea. Like it really can affect people's lives.
Yeah, for example, or that thing that you've always been wanting to tell someone, and all of your inhibitions are gone, and you just walk in and you do it, and you suddenly decide that, no, I have a great idea. I had a friend who was sitting for a law degree, and suddenly during the summer, was like, you know what? I have a great idea for a company. Quit his law degree, went off the rails, started trying to set something up, and it had absolutely nothing to do with any of his skill set, and it was massively problematic, as you can imagine.
So I've talked a lot about how to help folks with experts like you during the dark months. You've got the lamps, you've got going to talk to a therapist, you've got a lot of techniques to deal with the depression side of seasonal affective disorder. But the manic side, making sure we have a good handle on our elevated mood into the summer months. In case we don't, what are some of the strategies to deal with perhaps feeling too good during the other side of the coin here?
And it sounds horrible to try and put that into, you start to feel good. And there's a stage before mania called hypomania. And it's when you're at that elevated stage. But that's when that tumble continues and that self-perpetuating kind of cycle happens that leads to mania. You're having a really good time in hypomania, but that's when you really got to cut it off. And it sounds terrible to be like, no, you're having a great time. You're being super productive and hitting all of your goals, but you're not sleeping. The cycle has started. So the techniques are somewhat similar to what you would see during depression, during the winter months. But as it's flipped, one of the key elements that I suggest for people is social rhythm therapy. And like on the winter side, where you're talking about bring out lights and bring out the such like. In the summer, have blackout curtains. Set a bedtime for yourself. Know that that's when you need to go to sleep. Know you get up at the same time every day. Turn those lights on. You should be planning on having a light cycle that is consistent. In the animal world, because I do research in animals as well as in humans, and in the animal world, we call it a 12-12. 12 hours of light, 12 hours of dark. And that's a consistent consistent environment we keep our animals in all the time. But in humans, we're experiencing this fluctuation where everyone in the equator is 12-12, or in the spring equinox it's a 12-12. But in the summer, there's a lot of light. In the winter, there's hardly any light, and we oscillate through that. So what you try and do is try and keep that steady for yourself. Try and keep things consistent for yourself.
I'm here with Jared Young, a psychiatry professor at the University of California, San Diego. When we come back from the break, we'll talk more strategies for dealing with seasonal affective disorder, especially as things get good into the light, hopefully not too good, and talk about why some of these mechanisms function. Why do you actually get this? We'll be back with Jared Young in a moment.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. When your therapist won't take your calls anymore, there's always the last show with David Cooper.
Seasonal affective disorder. SAD. It gets a lot of airplay during the dark months, times when people get a little more depressed. But into the summer months, when things get a little better, we want to make sure they don't get too good and we don't get into manic states. We're here with Jared Young, a psychiatry professor at the University of California, San Diego, to continue our conversation about this. Jared, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me back, David. Happy to talk about it.
So it's so interesting to me that the way we want to deal with the good months to make sure they don't get too good and we end up, having manic episodes is focusing on light the same way we would in the winter, but just the other way. So like blackout curtains. Are there any other strategies we can take to make sure that the good times, if we have seasonal affective disorder, aren't too good?
So we mentioned blackout curtains, and we mentioned about trying to maintain things like in a 12-12 light period. And that is blackout curtains, but it's also, making sure you do go to bed at the time where you normally should go to bed. And there are techniques to try and help you get to sleep better. As you enter into summer months, that light is there. Like, we all get excited. We all want to spend all of our time out now that we can do that. But being dedicated, keeping, ensuring that you actually try and go to sleep at the same time, you try and get up at the same time. It takes dedication, but it's that is absolutely something you have to do, and try and maintain the same kind of social life that you have during the winter months that you would have during the summer. Like I say, social rhythm therapy, maintaining consistency is amongst the best, despite the fact that you want to do otherwise.
So we evolved, I don't know, our ancestors, apes or whatever, with seasons and light changes for many, many thousands of years. Why does modern life make these mood swings worse? Is it worse now, or did we always struggle with this? Do chimpanzees struggle with this too?
Oh, some of us talk about this a lot, and I'm so glad you brought it up. I'm a big fan of trying to understand things through an evolutionary perspective. And if you imagine, back in the day, we didn't have lights. So if you take human beings out into the middle of the desert and have them just no lights, no nothing, eventually people start to entrain themselves. They wake up when the sun comes up. They go to bed when the sun goes down. And eventually their light cycle changes that. So we still have that mechanism. We are modern, but we are still apes. So what's remarkable, if we think about hunter-gatherer societies, back in the day, like in the summer, the most you can go and hunt and gather and collect food, etc., for the coming winter months. The best people are the ones that can do it the most. They can sleep the least. They can run the longest. They can collect food. They can think faster. They are stronger. And then imagine in the winter, they're the ones that can slow down and conserve energy. And this sounds familiar, right?
Yeah, sounds like there's some sort of biological evolutionary utility to feeling great in the summer and being kind of down in the winter.
Exactly. And one of the things that happens with nature, as with everything, we know this from offshoots of past Australopithecine, etc., past humanoids that never actually made it. Nature tends to try and then experiment. Imagine the best woman, the best man, being able to do all of this. Their children, some of them might be like also great with like them, but some of them might go a little bit extreme, and they might be a little bit off, and they might go way too far and have difficulty regulating things back. Personally, I think that's how the genes that drive bipolar disorder, I think that's how they first came around. Those allelic variants, I think that's how they got created, was this hunter-gatherer motif that still impacts us today.
Interesting. How linked are bipolar disorder and seasonal affective disorder? Are they always linked? Is there just a strong connection?
There's a strong connection, and I think part of that is I think there is a strong connection, both likely genetically, but also the environmental impact affects us all the same way. People with seasonal affective disorder do exhibit some behaviors that excitement in the summer, but we all do. They just don't take it as far. But you can think of seasonal affective disorder somewhat as bipolar-like, but light. They don't quite go into as bad a depression as well. And it's the light change and the duration of the light that really is making the difference here. We've shown in the past that it's nothing to do with heat, it's nothing to do with wet and cold or with warmer temperatures. It's all about light. And we've done animal studies replicating some of that work as well.
If someone listening suspects they have seasonal affective disorder, but they're not sure if that's just normal seasonal grumpiness or normal seasonal, elevated mood, at what point should they consider talking to a medical professional? Like, how do you know that you have this thing? I know we should always caution against self-diagnosing here, but how would you know whether to talk to someone about it?
Absolutely avoid self-diagnosis, despite Google being a wonderful source. If you have had these experiences, especially seasonal affective disorder, or likewise with bipolar disorder, if you're having these experiences and you tend to have them repeated, last season I felt the same, and it seems to come around every single time. The point where you talk to a therapist is when you're starting to get into, is it impacting your life? And that's true for any condition you might think to imagine. You should speak to someone if the situation you find yourself in is negatively impacting your ability to function. You should seek help. And that's true for everything. But if you see a seasonal pattern to it, then you might have some inkling of what's going on.
Now, is it just light? Are there other mechanisms at play here? Like, how strong does light affect the cells in our body, the cells in our brain?
Light is remarkable. It's the strongest zeitgeist, and we see it across every species, whether it's mammalian, everything, and it drives so much in the way of changes. One of the most amazing, so I got into this research in part coming from Scotland, walking to school in the morning, I mentioned, and it being dark, walking back, and it being dark in the middle of winter. So I got into this research, seeing the spike in mania and bipolar disorder in the summer and the spike of depression in the winter. And I'm like, oh, that could be the mechanism. And I saw a talk by Nick Spitzer here at UCSD, and he wasn't talking about bipolar disorder. He was interested in what we refer to as neurotransmitter switching. So it's looking at a brain region where that brain region is exposed to a different environment, and they produce a completely different neurotransmitter depending on the environment. And so this area of the brain is called the paraventricular nuclei, just part of the brain that is a second stop for the eyes to the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It controls our circadian rhythm, basically. What I'm saying is, this part of the brain, when Nick put animals into a long photo period of light, just light, not changing temperature or anything, they produce dopamine. But if they put them into a long period of dark, they produce CRF, a stress response. But it didn't happen over 1 day. It didn't happen over 2 days. It had to happen over 7 days. And remember how I mentioned it takes people 7 days to entrain to light. So after 7 days, this part of the brain has simply switched neurotransmitters and hormones depending on what source of light that they're in. And what was very cool, he actually went to Scotland, took the brains of people who had died all of a sudden in the height of summer or in the height of winter, and basically showed the exact same thing was happening in humans if they died in the height of summer and the height of winter. Lots of dopamine in the summer, lots of stress responses in the winter. Remarkable.
For someone listening and they believe everything you're saying and they want to fix any kind of seasonality to their moods, but they're just not willing to give up that iPhone at night, or just not willing to give up a chaotic sleep schedule and party and not really take care of themselves when it comes to light, what would you recommend?
Actually, caring about yourself when it comes to recommending light. One of the things that we know now is it's not just simply light, it's really about blue light.
Yeah.
And there are lots of screens. You can get TVs, my laptops, and your phone where they have red light filters that go on top. I have them all the time, and I do it on everything. I actually use also dim light at night. All my entire house is on dimmer switches. So like at night, I put it down to a dimmer light before I'm going to bed. Stages while I'm getting ready for bed, dim the lights. And I thoroughly recommend that.
I do the same. I put the wildest orange filter on my TV in my bedroom. I'm not willing to give up the TV, which I know would be the best thing, but the second best thing is...
Yeah, filter out all that blue light, use that red light. It's a great first step.
Jared, I've enjoyed this chat. Thanks so much for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Jared Young is a psychiatry professor at the University of California, San Diego. Coming up next, know someone who treats others like objects? Well, a new study reveals what personality traits that bad people treater probably has: entitlement, exploitativeness, and a lack of reciprocity. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show. Details up next.
The show that makes you laugh, think, and occasionally uncomfortable. The Last Show with David Cooper.
We're told not to treat people like objects. Makes sense, but apparently some people didn't get the memo, because a new study finds entitlement and exploitative personalities, people with them, are far more likely to see others that they interact with as basically tools. I'm here with someone who worked on that study. She is an organizational psychology professor at Wrocław University of Science and Technology in Poland, and her name is Jolanta Babiak. Jolanta, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here.
The word objectify, to objectify someone else, I've heard that phrase thrown around a lot, but I don't know that I know an exact definition. So how would a psychologist define somebody objectifying someone? What does it look like in everyday life?
Okay, that's a very important question, and we all should understand it. Now, objectifying someone means treating that person as an object. In other words, useful could be also thought of as interchangeable, even ownable. However, at the same time, not as subject, which means denying that person subjectivity, agency, even autonomy. So that's more or less general definition, or definition by itself, of the general tendency to objectify others.
And so your research, it looks into who treats others that way. What kind of personality traits would I have if I treated people, or I objectified them is a better way to say it?
Right. Well, yes, there are some people who are more likely to objectify others. These individuals are strongly focused on themselves, on pursuing their own interests, and obviously on achieving their own goals. But there's nothing wrong with that, right? We want to pursue our own goals, and we're interested in our business, right? Now, however, with that, objectifier sees other people through the lens of their mere usefulness. That means that they treat them instrumentally, as tools, in order to achieve their goals, right? So, objectifier would secure his or her interest through treating others as tools, through this lens. Now, with this strong focus on themselves, they feel entitled. They have this sense of entitlement, meaning that they feel they're better, that they believe that they do deserve more than others. So they have a greater claim for attention effort from others or resources. Okay? Now, that leads, or that means that instrumental treatment of others. With that entitlement comes exploitativeness. Now, with exploitativeness, people basically use to the max the resources of others. And now we have the entire picture of objectification, because we treat others as tools. I want to use you because I have an interest of pursuing my goal, okay, achieving my own success, but I also need to exploit you so you serve me, okay? So there we have like two underpinnings of objectification: treating people as objects and treating them not as subjects.
Now, why might we do this? Is it because it's like psychologically convenient? Is it just easier to have a social life if we objectify people? Is it easier to get things done at work? Is there any benefit to objectifying people?
Well, your first question, why might we do it? Well, if someone's personality profile is such that someone is more prone to objectify others, I mean, she or he would do it by the virtue of having that tendency. Obviously, our lives are such that every day we want to achieve something. Our days are, full with tasks, different obligations. So we do it. But imagine in professional life, imagine at work. Obviously, we have to show to our boss or whoever that we do provide, that we do create added value to the organization, obviously. Now, if I objectify other people or one person, right, then I will be able, let's say, to contribute and to succeed faster, better, for my own benefit than other people.
If anyone's listening and they're sort of hearing what you're saying and thinking, maybe I treat people this way, or perhaps I don't want to treat people this way, is there a way to stop objectifying others? Are there personality traits that I could try to cultivate to objectify people less?
Yes, especially the trait or the tendency to reciprocate. Objectifiers do not reciprocate. They do not maintain the balance within the relationship of the reciprocation. What they do, they use a person as a tool for their own benefit, but they do not feel that they would need to pay back, at least to some degree. So yes, if you do have empathy for others, if you feel that, yes, someone helped you a lot and you use that person's skills, time, effort, and different resources, right? Their cognitive, emotional resources, any resources. But then you do not reciprocate and you just go on and on with your own stuff, then this is when the balance is off. Right? So reciprocating other people's deeds towards you and empathizing with them, understanding that they do have their own plans, their own intentions, that they do have their own autonomy, is a way not to objectify.
Would being more of an agreeable person and also being more of a curious person about others reduce your objectification of others?
Yes, actually, this is what our research says, is that when you score high, or that's a bit of a jargon, but if you are an agreeable person, meaning altruistic, empathetic, instead of being antagonistic, in other words, callous, focused on your own stuff, and when you are intellectually enclosed, like not curious in people's thoughts, emotions, on their lives, on their needs, then yes, you would objectify more. So individuals with antagonistic and like closed minds, like with lower intellect, lower in curiosity, would be the ones more probably to objectify others.
Now, the people who do objectify others, do they know they're doing it? Is there a way to become more aware of my behavior?
Yes, that's a tough question. We need to ask ourselves, are we aware of our own tendencies? Well, those individuals who are self-reflective and who are conscious about their own behavior, their own thoughts, their own sort of like meta-conscious, right? Probably they would be able to reflect upon their behavior and interpersonal relationships with others. Otherwise, if we do not spend time on self-reflection, we could probably ignore that.
Jolanta, thank you for joining me. This has been an interesting chat. Thanks for sharing your research.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Jolanta Babiak is an organizational psychology professor at Wrocław University of Science and Technology in Poland. Coming up next, have you ever had an earworm, a song, totally hijack your brain? And it's super weird, right? Like you can remember every lyric to a song from 25 years ago, and then later in the day, walk into a room and forget why you walked there? Turns out your brain has a reason. It can remember music, but then also be so forgetful. Details in a moment.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. The show that asks the questions other shows are afraid to ask. The Last Show with David Cooper.
You can remember every word of a song from 25 years ago, right? But not why you just walked into your kitchen. What were you looking for? Is your brain declining or just organizing in ways that leave you standing there confused? I am here to discuss just this with Professor of Anatomy at the University of Bristol in the UK, Michelle Spear. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
When I read your article on this topic, I was struck by it because I'm someone who can remember lyrics from a song many, many years ago, and I'm also the most forgetful person in the world. I don't remember who was at my house for dinner last night. I'm comforted to know that that's common. How common is this, that people can remember music and not other things?
Do you know, it's incredibly common. It's something that we all do, but I think it's perhaps something that we all worry about as well. And so that's why I particularly wanted to write about this. And instead of it being a sign of maybe something to worry about, it's actually telling us something really interesting about the way that our memory works. So it's just entirely normal, and it's the brain doing its job.
So how does memory work to provide this experience? Is my brain just really nostalgic? Like it loves music, but not what I'm going to the kitchen for? Like why does this happen? Why does memory function this way?
So it is fair to say that the brain loves music, and I'll come back to that just to tell you a little bit about that. But the way that memory works is memory isn't a single thing. It's not like a filing cabinet. We're not storing something away. Neither is it like a video recorder. And if I was to kind of just explain memory to you, I'd say that we need to think about it in 3 stages. So in the first stage, we just need to encode the information. That really means that we're sorting it out. We need to be paying attention at the time, which is another factor that comes in. And we encode it, and we place, if you will, tags on it, labels, attach different meanings to it. And then we store it, and that's when we make connections, and sometimes those neurons will strengthen over time. And then when we come to retrieve it, which is the final stage, that very much depends on the cues that are going to enable us to retrieve it. So the kind of tags that we've put in place in the first instance. So when it comes to music, there's so much within music. It's so rich. So you've got rhythm. There might be repetition in a chorus. So it might be that you've heard it so many times over. It might be that you do assign some emotion to it, the kind of song that you played when you passed your driving test, that kind of thing. So, and then it's got lyrics. So there's language centers in the brain. It might be that you've danced to it. So there's movement. There's so many tags you can put to it, which means that actually there's a really good chance of encoding and then processing and then retrieving all of those lyrics.
Interesting.
Music is especially good for that.
So where I put my keys, I've just got the one tag, like it's in the bowl. But with music, you got the rhythm, the key, the chord changes, the repetitive chorus, all this rich tapestry of things to tag it with. And so naturally, it would be easier for your brain to do so. Am I understanding this right?
Absolutely, that's exactly it. You've just got more of a chance, essentially. And then if you add in things like emotion, which you can get with memory, that's even deeper encoding. So it's even more deeply embedded and a stronger memory.
Tell me about this doorway effect, because it almost feels supernatural. First off, what is it? And then we'll chat about it a bit.
So psychologists will refer to the doorway effect, which is just in walking through a doorway, you can forget things. That's it. And again, this tells us something about how memory works, because we don't. If you think of this type of memory as being a bit like episodes, so say in a series, you're organising the experience into episodes, or if you will, chapters in a book, something like that. So the doorway, the literal doorway that you walk through, is going to act as a boundary between those chapters or episodes. So when you move into a new room, the brain updates the context of what's happening and effectively closes that previous episode down. So that means actually you're in a new context, and it's perfectly possible to forget what the intention of walking into the room was, because that was something that you associate with the past and the previous room.
So that feeling I get when I walk around my house, I enter a new room and then I completely forgot why I'm there. That's totally normal. Like that wipe of the mind in that case is totally normal. I'm not losing my mind.
You're not at all. It's completely normal. It's how memory is designed. There are those memories that you encode and you lay down, like the music that we were talking about, and those memories that you just need kind of just quickly, just transiently, a bit like when you're logging on to something and you just need to remember a kind of code. You might say the numbers to yourself quickly and you just retain them for the time that you need to use them, and then they can go again. That's the kind of thing that we're thinking of with working memory. And of course, you don't want to retain all of that. It hasn't got meaning. You've used it and it's served its purpose, and then it can go. So that is actually that type of memory working. It's just a bit annoying when you go upstairs to fetch your charger and then you can't remember why you're there in the first place and head back downstairs again.
Now, back to the music thing. Certain songs can kind of instantly and vividly transport us back to a place, being with a person, a moment decades ago when I can't remember anything about decades ago. Why does it do that? Why does it? I know you mentioned all the rich tagging, but there's something to me that's so unique about music that it really just helps paint a scene vividly. Or maybe that's just me.
No, a lot of people find this, and I think it's what, it's one of those actual wonderful things about music. You quite often remember where you were, when a song's playing. You don't tend to do that with TV or with film. And that's because of some of those, really, really unique tags that we were thinking about. So there is the repetition. So sometimes you remember songs and it might be a song that you weren't awfully fond of. It was just on the radio a lot. And that's where the repetition comes in. But then sometimes it's, one of those songs where, you remember years ago you were at a party and you were belting it out and everybody was there and it was of the moment and you had a great time. So what you then do is assign a level of emotion over that. And it's a whole different system in the brain that kicks in. So we've got a lot of, the brain's really well designed, but you've got a lot of things that can kick in. So the thing that kicks in when we're thinking about emotion is something called the limbic system. And that really kind of helps us to respond and conditions how we respond to think these kind of emotional things. So it might be, sometimes a smell will remind you of something, a sight, something like that. That's the limbic system. And of course, the tags that we were talking about, memory can have that emotional aspect, and that's where it comes in. There's the speech, so you remember things. So speech production, that it tags to the auditory cortex. So much of the brain, and such a diffuse area of the brain, that can respond to music. That's what makes it so different, and why you are remembering those lyrics, but not why you put your glasses.
Well, I've enjoyed the chat. You can read more about this. Michelle Spear wrote an article about this in The Conversation titled "Why You Can Remember Every Word of a Song from 25 Years Ago, but Not Why You Walked into the Room." Michelle Spear is a professor of anatomy at the University of Bristol in the UK. Michelle, I've enjoyed the chat. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
In a few moments' time, coming to a nerd's paycheck near you. Not a salary, not a bonus, not stock, but AI compute tokens. Yep, you heard that right. Silicon Valley may soon pay engineers in computation as compensation. So why are software developers so excited about this perk that sounds to me like the worst one you could ever think of? We'll explain after the break.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Broadcasting intimate details and useless information from an undisclosed location in New York City. The Last Show with David Cooper.
If you're a tech worker at a big tech company, why take all your compensation in cash when you can be paid in computation? Let me explain. Silicon Valley has invented a new perk of the job. It's not stock options, it's AI tokens. Your paycheck now partly powered by computer processors crunching numbers for you. What the heck is going on with this story? Let's discuss it with Alistair Barr, a reporter and author of the Tech Memo newsletter at Business Insider. Alistair, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So to me, this is a sign that the AI bubble is about to burst. But before we get there, okay, what exactly is AI compute as compensation? And who in their right mind working at a tech company would want that rather than just cash or stock options or a bonus or money?
Yeah, I usually just want cash for everything. But yes, AI compute, so that there's everyone's probably heard of ChatGPT and generative AI. So there's a version of that for when you're a software coder, and it has become very, very good. And if you're a software engineer and you want to do more and produce more code and better code, you can use these AI coding tools to do it. And that's really taken off, I would say, in the last 3 or 4 months, especially. And then the problem is if you're an engineer and you're using these AI coding tools, they use a lot of computational power. And if you're a company, the company has to pay for that. And if you use it a lot, that money can get very, very large amounts of money. And so if you're the CFO or if you're the manager of the team and you're like, okay, well, I'm already paying you $500,000 in stock and cash and stuff, and then you just racked up a $500,000 like AI compute bill the last year. Okay, we need to change something and put that into the whole compensation pie.
I'm going to come up with a simple, contrived example. I'm an engineer working on some software, and there's like a really deep bug in there. And I see a couple error messages, but I don't understand the bug. And so I ask a really deep, really power-intensive AI tool to find my bug, tell me about how it's happening so I can potentially fix it. How much money in electricity and computer power are we talking here to answer these questions using these AI tools? Is it like $5 of electricity or more like 5,000? Like, how expensive is it to run these computational models on code?
I did a story last year actually about people using tools like Cursor and also just the original Claude Code. And these are, again, AI coding tools that software engineers have really jumped on. Some of these people, I called them inference whales, basically like people who use these things a massive amount. They were racking up bills of $20,000, $30,000 a month on these things. So if you add that up over a year, that's a lot of money. And you add, if you have 100 engineers, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I did study math in university, but at least that's more than $5 at least. Doing a little napkin calculation here. But is the average engineer, performing at a high level using these computationally intensive tools? Are they racking up bills that sort of mirror their own salaries? Like, are companies really needing to factor this into to like how much it costs to have an employee at a company?
I think you're right to ask that question. My story was basically that I've seen over the past maybe month or so that a lot of people who I kind of respect on Twitter and other social media and the AI circles have been discussing this as an emerging issue. So I don't think right now that the CFO of some big tech company that we all know is already baking it in, but they're beginning to discuss it, and it's basically saying we should do this because, to your point about a bug code fix, if there's a really large code base and you decide, I'm going to let Claude Code or some other one of these tools go to town on this code base and check it. If you don't say work for 2 hours and come back to me, these AI tools can work for like a day, 2 days on these things. And then every single time they do that for a long amount of time, they basically generate these things called tokens, which is just the way that AI models digest queries and basically do the computation. And every single token that is processed, that is a certain amount of cents. And then, there's millions and millions of these tokens, so it adds up money-wise. So I would say your question is very fair. It's like an emerging debate in Silicon Valley that they're going to have to do something about this. And I would also say that actually, this is probably a really important point. These AI coding tools are becoming so useful that really, really ambitious AI engineers, if they're thinking about going to another company or even moving up in their own company, they're like, well, in order for me to do a good job, I need access to this computation. And then the company will say, well, we need it for all these other AI things we're doing, so you can't have it. And they're like, but I want it. And there's a fight going on. So it's a valuable resource, a new valuable resource.
So are we seeing this in job postings? Like, I left the tech industry just before, a couple years before AI became popular, like at the beginning of 2021. Back then, job listings would list off things like salary or stock or bonus or health benefits or a gym membership. Are we seeing it on job listings? Like, if you come work for us, you can blow $50,000 a month in AI computation. Maybe not that much, but are we seeing it in job listings?
So I've seen it in a couple. There was one that was for is a pretty I would say kind of mid-level kind of software engineering role, and it was like a remote work thing, and it had every single kind of regular piece of compensation, and then it added a monthly subscription to Copilot, which is the Microsoft one. So that's a very basic one. So that comes included in this role that you'd be doing. And then I'd say less specific, but similar. Mark Zuckerberg last year, when he went on this massive AI recruiting surge that he did, that was very, very expensive. Like, one of his main pitches is, you come to Meta, you will have access to all the AI compute we can give you. Now, is the CFO of Meta baking that into everyone's comp yet? I don't think so, but it's the same thing, right? He's going out, building all these massive data centers, spending billions and billions of dollars on all this compute. And one of the reasons is not just we need to make good AI models. It's like, talented engineers, you come here, you'll have it all. You don't have to wait. So I think that's, again, it's like, that isn't compensation, but that's like, should I go and work for Google or should I go and work for Meta? Well, at Meta, I'm going to have all this compute.
There's a joke here about them needing all that compute power to make Mark Zuckerberg continue to function properly, but whatever, we'll make that joke another time. Where is this money going? Is it just go into the pockets of OpenAI, ChatGPT's parent company or whatever? Like, is Anthropic blowing all that money on data centers? And so, like, it's the hardware companies like NVIDIA that make the chips and then the memory chips and also the utility company that's powering the data center? Or is it just going in their pockets and they're going out for caviar every night?
Obviously, ideally, some of it should in theory go into Anthropic's pockets. I don't know how much is going in there right now, but yeah, like if you go down one layer, it would be the data center operators. So Anthropic has a load of deals with, especially AWS, Amazon. So money would go into Amazon's pockets, and then Amazon has to turn around and buy GPUs, networking equipment from NVIDIA and everyone else. And then it's like, well, how are we going to run the data centers? It needs electricity. So then it goes to, I don't know, Constellation Energy or whoever else it is.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, some of it comes out of our pockets when we pay more for electricity at the end.
Yeah, I wonder who's getting rich here. And it sounds like maybe not the tech workers, because now they're being paid in these compute tokens instead of cash. I wonder if we're in a bubble, a conversation that we didn't have time to attack, but maybe that's okay. On the one hand, it sounds ridiculous. On the other hand, it sounds like, I don't know, the industry's changing, and maybe I'm the weird one. I don't know.
I'm having that feeling a lot lately. Like, the industry's changing, and am I missing it? I don't know.
Well, you can read more about this in Alistair Barr's piece called Silicon Valley is Buzzing, about this new idea, AI compute as compensation. You can read that in Business Insider, where he works and is the author of the Tech Memo newsletter. Alistair, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you coming on the show.
That's fun. Thanks for having me.
That is a wrap on our show. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to the Last Show podcast. To find it, search David Cooper Last Show in your favorite podcast app, like Apple or Spotify. Will pop up and you can subscribe. And if you subscribe, you can listen to entire nights of this program that you missed, or listen to some of the great interviews you loved where you learned something. You can even send a link to a friend if you want. No pressure. Subscribe to the Last Show podcast. I'm David Cooper, and this was not the first show. We'll be back tomorrow night.
Firefighters risk their lives every single day.
Fridays on Global.
I'm gonna get you out of here, bud. This is the greatest job in the world.
An all-new Fire Country.
Firefighter Leon, I need you to make your own risk assessment. We're going in.
Deep in the woods behind you, there's a wildfire.
We're in the game now, boys!
TV's hottest show.
It's off. Be safe.
Keeps getting hotter.
Will you help?
Happy to.
Fire Country, all new Fridays at 9 Eastern on Global. Stream on Stack TV.